This is the Activ8 Take, and I'm John Fosco. A lot of you guys, a lot of the world, a lot of the MMA world is going crazy. Why? Because Conor McGregor just retired, right? The guy who is setting the fastest growing young sport in the world on fire. The guy who is taking the sport from a niche sport to a mainstream sport and making tons of money doing it, just retired. Not only did he just retire, but he took himself out of the headliner spot at UFC 200, and many ask why. I ask why, you ask why, all my messages ask why. Now, I've been an agent in the MMA space for almost 10 years. So I'm not saying I have the answer, but I think I have some pretty good insight as to what's going on with Conor. Here's the deal. The UFC is very big on wins and losses when you're negotiating money. Now, Conor just lost to Nate Diaz, but at the same time, that show that he lost on was arguably, the numbers are private, but arguably the largest grossing pay-per-view UFC event of all time. Now, I am only to assume that if a 27-year-old guy at the pinnacle of a sport who's becoming an international superstar retires, it's only for a short period of time. And then you ask yourself why. Well, guys, why does everything happen in this world? Money, right? Money. I can guarantee, with a little bit of doubt, that Conor said, okay, we crushed it at UFC 196 or whenever he fought Nate last. It doesn't matter if I won or lost, because the reason the pay-per-view numbers were huge because of me. So I want more money this time around. The UFC probably said, you lost, Conor. We'll pay you, the same or less. I don't know the specifics, but I can gauge the scenario for you. And Conor said, no way, because Conor, if you paid attention to his interviews, he would always talk about how he is the fight game. And the UFC really did contribute to making him a king. Well, sometimes you have to be careful what you wish for, because what we're seeing right now is a guy who has the fight world by the balls, and unfortunately, the UFC kind of too, and he's using that leverage to display free market capitalism. What the guy's got to be doing is he's got to be holding out, just like a football player, in minicamp before the season starts. He's got to be holding out for more money, because there are very few fighters, there are very few in the history of the UFC that you could say, if the UFC lost this fighter, their business, their actual bottom line would take a hit. And undoubtedly, if they lost Conor McGregor, their bottom line would take a hit. So I am just as interested as you to watch this thing play out, because I think what we're going to see is the evolution of how the UFC has to interact with its athletes. And that evolution is going to be based around contractual negotiations, the actual structure of the contract, and also their duties, their promotional duties. So, guys, let's stay tuned. I'm going to report back when I have some information, but thank you for watching the Activ8 Take, and I am John Fosco.